And we're back, YouTube. Thank you for tuning in. As always, I appreciate that. Well, a new Half-Life game was announced by Valve, and it's VR only. So yeah, it's been 12 years since the last one, and I have to say I'm a fan right from the start with Half-Life 1, and I'm always hopeful. I've always been hopeful that a new Half-Life game would come around the corner, and well, we're getting one, but not one that people were expecting. I was not expecting a VR game. So Half-Life Alyx VR game. I'll tell you, I don't own a VR set. Reason being, I get motion sickness quite quickly. Even when I play just normally on a monitor, I get headaches after extensive play. VR is just not very healthy for me. But from a Valve point of view, this makes sense, because they make VR headsets, and this game will utilize that technology. But still, VR is not a thing for the masses yet. I mean, it's bigger than it's ever been, but again, I think Valve has a point here. They can do some cross-selling. You know, they make a game that's worth a VR purchase maybe, and hopefully they will sort of break into that market and get more people invested or interested in VR. But it's just not for me. But it's difficult to be negative about it, because again, it's a Half-Life game. But I'm also skeptical about it. From what we've seen, it's just a trailer, of course, but the nature of a VR shooter does not really appeal to me that much. It seems to be a very linear experience where you sort of teleport from one position to the next, shooting enemies that come out of the woodwork. I think there are two problems with that. One question being, does this capture the essence of a Half-Life game? Half-Life for me has always been to be immersed into that world where you step into the shoes of an ordinary guy, you know, a scientist or somebody working in a laboratory, and then having to make sense of all the chaos that went down. That was Half-Life for me, and facing off with, for the time, quite intelligent enemies. You know, these soldiers that you would come across. They would throw grenades. They would take cover. They would sort of try and flank you. That was unheard of and unseen in a game back in the day, in the 90s of the last century. That's this. I guess this essence of a Half-Life game for me is just something that I've not seen before, a new world, to be immersed into it. And by the looks of it, the trailer does seem to capture the look and feel of the second game. But that's pretty much it. For the rest, and that's the second problem that I have with this game, this VR game, is that, well, there's quite it seems like you have a lack of control. As I said, you probably sort of teleport from one position to the next, and you can move around and try and shoot things, but that seems to be all of it. Now, Valve said that it's going to be a full-fledged game, so I'm not sure what that means, but it could mean that there's quite a bit of cutscenes and storytelling going on, which is nice, but I can watch that on YouTube while somebody's playing the VR game. But the level of interactivity, that worries me quite a bit. How much of a game is there, or does it play itself, basically? That's one of the problems that the previous Call of Duties had, the campaigns where you get to play a little bit of shooting, and then extensive cutscene and then a little bit of shooting, and you never felt like you were in control, and the sort of game played itself quite honestly. So I'm worried about that. But even so, I think it's good that Valve decided to pick up the Half-Life series again, you know. And I can understand it. They will make a VR game, and it will be judged as a VR game, and it won't be judged as a Half-Life 3, basically. So it's safer for them to do this and see what the reaction is, and then maybe they will have the sort of confidence they need to announce and develop Half-Life 3, because I think the masses are waiting for Half-Life 3. But again, you know, this game being so popular, I can understand what Valve is thinking. You know, it can only get worse than these first two games, really. But with a VR game, it's a different story. You know, it's a new thing for the universe, and if it works, then well, that's fine. If it doesn't, well, then I guess it's time to do another Half-Life 3, much like BioShock, right? They tried their hands on this sort of open world looter-shooter experience with Anthem, but it turns out that that didn't really work that well, so they're back trying to create a Mass Effect 4, and that's basically what we're all waiting for. So yeah, it could be a sort of a stepping stone for Valve to continue actually developing games in the Half-Life universe. That's my little rant about Half-Life. Alyx, again, I don't want to be too negative about it, just a little bit skeptical and worried, but overall, again, I do applaud the fact that Valve decided to dust off the Half-Life franchise and at least do something with it. So thank you guys. Let me know what you guys think, and see you next time.